he was running up the ramp, and one of the kids we got into a fight with was running after him with a knife. But V was this fucking fast motherfucker, so V was like also a real big wise. So he was like running up the ramp, and he would like turn around and like tell the guy like, "Come on, man! Like, oh, you slow or some shit." Like I don't remember what he said, but it was like I remember like in my head like laughing, and then like I think we lost a few people. We lost Kes Five. I think Kes Five went to the train station, and then I remember like me, PG was like, "Yo, we gotta get out of here. We gotta." So we ended up getting in my van. We got out of there, and like I still couldn't see that great, so I was driving slow, and then like me and Scuff ended up in the Wyckoff Hospital with the noses broken, and it was funny because we were like on stretchers, like laughing about the whole thing because we didn't care. And it's like fortunate and unfortunate that there was no cameras back then. But if there was like cell phone cameras, we probably would have had like a selfie of us with broken noses laughing. So I went back to my mom's house, and then I assumed he was staying home too because he was like, "I'll hit you up the next day," and the phone rang and my mom would flip out. She'd be like, "Well, who else calling so late?" So I picked up and it was Kes Five, and he was like, "Yo," he's like, he just kept saying, "VE got shot, VE got shot," and I'm like, I thought he was busting my balls because we would joke about things really hard back then, and I was, and then he was like, I was like, stop playing around, and he was like, "Yo, for real." I was like, he was like, and then he said, he's like, "I'm calling you because," he was like, "I don't have his mother's phone number. So I only have the number to the basement, which is a different number where VE lived. He lived in the basement of his mom's house." So he was like, "Can you call Karen?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Is he okay?" I kept saying, "Is he okay?" And Kaz was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's okay. He's going to Wyckoff Hospital. We'll meet you there." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I called up his mom. I said, "Karen," because she's a very emotional person in general. So I said, "Karen," I said, "Listen." I started off. I remember I told her, I said, "Look, Jimmy's okay." I said, "But he got shot." I said, and I said, I'm gonna come and pick you up, and we're gonna go to the hospital." So she flipped out on the phone. I said, "Look, they told me he's okay." So long story short, I went, picked her up. We went to the hospital, got to the emergency room, and in the meantime, I had beat my brother, because it was beeper days. It wasn't cell phones yet. It was 1997, June 8th to be exact, and I told my brother meet me at the hospital, and then I got to the hospital with V's mom, and we got there, and outside was Kes Five, uh, Spot, and I don't remember who else was there from that side of the crew, their crew. But anyway, we went inside. So I went outside and I'm like, "Yo, what happened?" They're like, "Yo, we don't know, we don't know." So I went inside with V's mom, and the doctor came up to his mom and was like, "Hey, like he can't come in about me." And the doctor was with two uniformed. I could tell that I'm not stupid. I already did time in Rikers. Like I been arrested. I knew about police. I could read shit. So I knew there were two detectives, and I knew they were there for the because it was a shooting, obviously, right? So they have to come. So his mom said, because she was like, oh, they were like, "Oh, has to be family only, family only." So she said like, "Oh, this is his cousin," you know. So they let me in with her, and we went inside, and they brought us into this like little room, and I remember like there was the two detectives and a uniform cop and the doctor, and the doctor like didn't even introduce himself from what I remember, but I like this was a very shocking moment, so maybe my memory's skewed. However, so any long story short, the doctor said to V's mom like, "Your son is expired," just like that, like he was a battery that like ran out of life. And I like and I you know I felt guilty about saying this, but I'm just gonna be transparent because Kes Five told me he was okay. I was assuming that VE was like shot in the leg or in the foot, or in the arm, which happened to other friends of ours, and I was actually on the way to the hospital thinking of ways to bust his balls. Like, oh my God, you're going to be telling the girls you got shot and you're a gangster now, blah, 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 whatever. And like, I wasn't really worried when I got to the hospital. And, when I heard that, like, I don't know, it was like, felt that cold wave of, I guess, adrenaline or shock went through me. And then, like, I forced my way past the detectives and they tried to, no, the uniform guy, he tried to hold me and detectives were like, let him go. And then, like, I just was walking like through the emergency room looking for the room to find him because I was in shock and I didn't believe that it was, true. And then, like, I'm not gonna get into the graphics of it, because I don't want to upset his family and things like that. But like, I found him and like his eyes were open, and he was obviously dead. And um, the nurses were cleaning up, the blood and like, they ripped his clothes off. So it was like, I'll never, it's an image I don't really want to talk about to the public of what I've engraved in my head. And I ended up, the nurse was like, you got to get out of here. You can't be in here or whatever. And I remember her saying something like that. And then, like, I ended up walking outside. And when I walked outside, everybody was there, not everybody, because half of the people that were uh, at the shooting, the were in the police station giving statements. And the other half were outside the ER. So when I got there, my brother had just arrived. And I walked up to him and, like, he said to me, like, yo, like, everyone was like, what's up? What's up? And I looked, when I got close to my brother, I don't know, I just hugged him. And, like, like, this is actually the last time I recall crying. And I haven't cried since this story I'm telling you. And I just don't know how to release that anymore. But I grabbed my brother and I just, like, when you're going to cry, like, your voice just, like, makes, like, a crack almost, like you almost can't talk. And like I didn't tear yet, but like I like the emotion like made my voice crack, and I remember like just barely being able to get the words out, like he's gone, and I grabbed him. My brother like pushed me away and looked me in the eye, like in shock, like what? And then I remember like Kez 5 was right next to us and heard that, and like I think he just went ballistic and just started punching car windows and breaking car windows. Like I guess that was like the way he was dealing with the shock. And like, and then like very shortly after that, VE's mom came outside the ER and she was just standing there and she fainted. And Spot was right next to her, luckily, and he caught her before, and then, the hospital brought a wheelchair out and brought her inside, and so on and so forth. And then, like, once I got my emotions under control, like, I just started asking everybody that was there, like, well, what the fuck happened, like, and everybody was just like, we don't know, like, nobody had an answer. And then they just told me where it happened, and like, so I was outside the ER for whatever time period it was, and then I remember like after it was maybe an hour or two, I really don't remember. Uh, I think a detective car pulled up, or maybe it was a paddy wagon, and PG was in there with Scuff, and I think Foe, and whoever else was there at the scene, and that the police brought them there because they were finished questioning them in the police station. And then like I found out where the location was, and at that time I had a van, so we were all able to fit into the van, and like we went to the crime scene. And there was like still some tape and stuff, and at this point daylight was breaking, and we saw in front of 68 Himrod like the puddles of blood. Like it wasn't like it was like a lot of blood, like an enormous amount, and it was because in the autopsy the bullet went into, if I recall correctly, to his rib cage, hit his spine, went through his spleen, and then severed his aorta artery. So he pretty much bled out internally. Like they, even if he got shot in the hospital, they would probably wouldn't be able to save his life. So nobody knows what happened. It was like I said, Bushwick, and like if anybody from New York remembers Bushwick back then, in 1997, prior, they celebrated Puerto Rican Day for like 2 weeks. It was crazy. Like everybody was out there. Girls would dress up sexy. There was the parade. Everyone's car was covered in Puerto Rican flags. So it was like, getting shot at a huge festival. So where it happened, where the bullet came from, I should say, uh, nobody knows. I mean, the police know the logistics of how far away the bullet came, obviously, and the caliber of the bullet. They won't release that because it's still an open case. Uh, Even though it's been 28 years almost. This June will be 28 years, and anyway, that's unsolved. I'm sorry. I know I went into a long tangent about that, but I don't know why. If just that's the story about him, so it's unsolved and sad. 'Cause that was my best friend. And I really had a lot of love for him. Still do.